He was a good lover, yeah, very good lover. Taught him all the tricks I knew, and he got very good after that. And you know, I told him right away that I knew he didn't do oral sex because it wasn't in any of his books. If he did it, he would have written about it. So I says, and I only go with men who do that. I told him that right up front. I says, I know you don't do that because I've never read it in any of your books. He was raised in the 40s, you know. They were a little bit more straight-laced back there. He had a Puritan streak in him, this wide, like a skunk. Puritan streak right down his back. The dirty old man with a Puritan streak. Now, how can that be? It was.
As a young man, Bukowski did not have much of a love life, but when he was around 50, and after he'd had some recognition as a writer, things changed. Many of those experiences ended up in his novel Women. And it was the first time that female companionship had ever sought him out. And it was a glorious day for him after waiting 50 years.
Get up, get on up, get up, get on up, get up, get on up, get up, get on up. He said.
This is where I wrote Women, yeah. This is where I did my research. And a lot of them used to sit on the couch. One morning I had 3 of them sitting on this couch. The mailman came by. He asked me the next day, Hank, how do you do it? How do you get it? I said, the problem is not how you get them, it's how you get rid of them. So, sometimes people think you got a good thing, you got a bad thing. So, it worked out. It turned into writing.
At the end of our relationship, when Bukowski and I were fighting the most, well, I came in and I stole his books one night. I'd been drinking quite a bit, and I stole his books, and he caught me doing it, and he came and says, I don't think I deserve this, you got to give my books back. And so I brought all his books back, a whole stack of them, and I threw them into his house through those windows. I said, and here's for this woman, and here's for that woman, and here's for that woman. And I broke about 20 windows with his books as I threw them back through his house. Bing, bing, bing. It was a good time that night. And that was one of the last times we were together, you know.
Well, since my baby left me, well, I found a new place to dwell. Well, it's down at the end of the lonely street, that Heartbreak Hotel where I'll be just so lonely, baby. Well, I'm so lonely. I'll be just so lonely to die. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Bukowski!
Hank was giving a poetry reading at a club in Los Angeles, in Hollywood, called The Troubadour. And so I decided I'm going to go. I said, well, I think it's time I meet him, really meet him, like say words to him. And so when most of the people had sort of gone away, I said, hello, my name's Linda Bailey. I love your work. I've been reading your work for years. I come to all your readings. And he sort of just quietly looked. And at that point, he wrote down a little piece of paper. He wrote down his phone number, and he wrote a little picture of a man with a little bottle of alcohol, which he usually writes, and a little sunshine. And he gave it to me. And so at that point, I wrote down on a piece of paper my phone number and my name, gave it to him. Well, for many years, I'd been devoted to an Indian master named Meher Baba. And in his discourses, he said many things, of course, but one of the things was for unmarried people to remain celibate. At that point, I had been celibate for about six or 7 years. So during the time that I met him, for about 6 months, he was having relationships with many, many women, and I was remaining very straight and very platonic with him. He sort of went through about 6 months of these women, and his book was finished, and so were they. But I stayed.
But don't forget who's taking you home and in whose arms you're gonna be. So darling, say the last dance for me. Baby, don't you know I love you so?
He saw what success and money and fame had done to other writers of his generation and of through history. So he knew there was a danger there, and he knew that there was a danger for a writer to, you know, to lose his soul or to become a clown. He would never go on a talk show, for example, which would have increased the sale of his book enormously. The irony is that he did go on a talk show in France, and that he got so drunk that it created a scandal. This very cool man who was running this talk show ended up having him evicted from the show.
Shut up. Shut up. A few minutes. Voilà. Docteur, chut. Donne trop. Oh, okay.
Got to go.
Ciao.
Okay.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Ok.
This is my girl.
Bah, finalement, il tient pas tellement la bouteille, cet écrivain américain. Voilà. Attendez, vous voulez pas l'emmener, là? Voilà, monsieur...
We still have to go where we live.
Au revoir, monsieur. Adieu.
The next day, he didn't remember anything, of course, Bukowski, but the whole France were running to the bookshops to buy his books, and you couldn't find any book. In a few hours, they were all sold out.
La télévision qui lui offre,
Non, il apporte lui-même ses bouteilles.
je savais pas qu'on pouvait apporter son manger.
His feeling about celebrity was throw it away. Absolutely, throw away. He wasn't interested in it. He didn't like it. It bothered him. It distracted him. It was not what he wanted to be. It wasn't what he wanted to do. He definitely did have a sort of a routine. He would not get up. We never got up too early in the morning. And when he did get up, we'd make fresh orange juice and have a little small breakfast, and he'd get ready to go to the racetrack, which he did often.
Linda, come get your juice.
The way I look at it, it seemed to me that, and it might sound really silly, but it seemed to me like the racetrack to him was his church, his temple almost. It was very similar to what people do when they go to these types of places. They contemplate, they focus on one thing. They're there, they lose themselves in that one thing, and they don't think, they're not distracted by anything external of that. And he would do that, and he would go to the track, and he never would bet a lot of money on each race, maybe no more than $20 at the most, usually 5 or 10. It wasn't a thing about making money. It was a thing about organizing, somehow organizing and focusing, contemplating, and whether he won or lost, he would still go upstairs when he came home, and later that night he would end up typing.
It helps my writing. The reason it does is probably an unknown quantity. Like Hemingway needed bullfights, you know, to see what was happening. It taught him something. Actually, he was studying death. I'm more or less studying life. I think what it is, it tells you something very quickly that you should know from the beginning. But it doesn't quite give you the answer. It almost gives you the answer. And that's important, to almost have the answer. And that's all. It teaches you something unnameable. When I don't go to the track for 2 or 3 days, I just wilt like a flower without water. So it's, I can't name it. It's just It's just there. The thing is there. I have to go see it. The monster, the god, the rat, the snail, whatever's out there, I have to go see it and look at it and endure it and maybe not endure it, but it's needed. That's all. I really can't explain it. If I could, I wouldn't go.